other human beings and knows. No, wrong one. Let's try this one, guys. Hi, Peter. Hi, Mira.
Hello.
Hi there. My name's Gary Turner. I'm your host of this right here, right now, live exploration. And what's it all about? It's one simple question. What's on your heart and mind right here, right now, in this moment? We just explore with curiosity, with open-heartedness, and with a real desire to better understand one another. Really exploring the depths and breadths of our humanity through that one simple question. This tune, Kaleidoscope, was created for me by the amazing Peter Griffiths, one half of The Mind Takeaway. Well, first vulnerable moment. What was that first video, Gary? No idea what you're doing. Anyway, welcome to the Right Here, Right Now show, Mira and Peter Griffiths. How are you both?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. We are doing well.
Did you notice that tune, by the way, you two?
Yeah, I've not heard that before.
Yeah, never. I'm not sure I've ever heard it, just like a million times.
We might come back to that as we chat. But look, as for those that have watched the show before, like one really simple question is going to be the seed for our flow for the next half hour. Mira, Peter, what's on your heart and mind right now, right here, in this very moment? Really curious.
He's usually faster with answers. So.
Yeah, I thought I would just switch it up and just wait for you to talk. So
might be a long wait.
Yeah, might be. What's on my? So what's been going on lately? I mean, I think it's dynamics. Like this, what happened just now, I guess, as well, is like we all got our way of doing things together, you know, when you're with other people as a team, as a group, and that's something that we are noticing, we are working on more and more and being asked more questions about it lately. And it is about high-performing teams. It is about psychological safety. And it is about also what DE&I has to do with that. Yeah, and so see, when dynamics get switched, it's not all that bad, is it? I just started talking in a very strange accent, but okay.
I'm not going to comment and dig myself any hole.
No, me.
Yeah, but it's just I love this, by the way, because it's just what's on your mind, right? Just go, and you know, anyone that knows us, we love doing this live and direct. Actually, much more than we do the recorded stuff. Not that that's bad. It's just better for me as a creative, I guess, and a musician just to go, just turn up and just say whatever occurs, right? Oh, we need to get this.
I said I'd do it once in a while. You don't have to conform. It's like there's a test of command and control right there.
Yeah. Pavlov, no?
Yeah, so of late, a lot of our work's been helping teams. So teams of two, whether it's two professional musicians signed to a major label who wanted to split because they don't love each other, for example, because as you know, in many partnerships, even our own, when it's not the romantic part, it can be challenging. And, you know, when sometimes you don't communicate in the right way, things start to happen. And what we find with most teams, when high performance starts to slip, or in the case of something where they're the gamers or they're a football team, whatever, they tend to just lack communication directly. And what happens is, if they, for example, lose a match or a game, or they turn up and the gig doesn't go accordingly, they start to think things are really wrong when they're not. And I don't know if you thought about this, but you will lose. You know, you will fall over sometimes. And just before we recorded, right, Gary, we were sending each other back and forth some audio messages on WhatsApp, and I think both of us tripped over at some point today. As I'm trying to record it, I ended up walking into a tripod, and it just fell straight over, and it nearly fell on my face, you know. And that's just natural of everything that we do, even if you're a high-performing team. What most people don't see behind the scenes is it can look like a proper shit show, pardon my French. And that doesn't mean to say that they're not great at what they do. It's just that naturally things don't always go via a straight linear path, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so it's really, how do we deal with that? What happens when that happens? And I think this is the part where often people go wrong, is when everything goes well, everything is fine, everything goes in a certain direction. We actually don't know how performing we are and how resilient we are. But when things start going off a cliff, it's there where you need to be aware of your resiliency, and where you need to be aware of what is actually going on, what is really going on, so that you can pull yourself up.
Right, so I'm sitting here, right? We're in 6 minutes, Mira and Peter. And I want to just go pause and go, right, for you that are watching this live or later, we've covered diversity, equity, inclusion, remote working, psychological safety, high-performing teams, right, in 6 minutes. And that's what happens when you come from a place of flow without thinking in the way. Is you can join the dots, as you two just went bang, bang, bang. We're working on this, we're working on that. And I just wanted to hold space for a second, because I think it's really important to realize that we've all got that capacity. You're talking about resilience, Mira, but it's not like we need to go over there to find resilience, is it? It's not off the shelf, resilience.
No.
I love what you said there. It's not off the shelf. You actually, I didn't really thought about this, but you have to go through adversity to realize how resilient you are. So I can think of many examples in my life where if you'd asked me weeks or months or even years before, I would say, yeah, I'm not very resilient. Sometimes this happens, or, whatever. But then things happen, life gets in the way. And that's the most natural thing, because it will, right? You will be challenged. And that's not to say you should be scared and close the curtains and stay under the bed sheets. It just means that if you show up and just play life, resilience always has your back. And if you don't believe that, just reverse engineer the fact that you're still surviving and you're having, the fact that all three of us are having this conversation. I'd hazard a guess that we've had to draw on our resilience at some point. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool. I'd love to hear from you. You started to speak about this psychological safety piece, and I'm really curious. As you know, I work in the corporate environment. Everyone's talking about back to work, whatever that means based on an individual context for small teams or big corporates, whatever. I'm really interested. Again, we're in the moment. I've got no idea where this is popping up from, but I've got this really curious question around psychological safety in remote teams. How do you build that? What conversations are being had? Because psychological safety, when you're in a space together and you can read the energy, you can see each other's eyeballs, is one thing. And when you've all got the equal size, which is great for diversity and inclusion, we've all got the same size box on Zoom, but way more difficult you can feel energy, but you can't always read the body language as easily. I'm just wondering if we maybe just sort of riff on that a little bit with the work you're doing in terms of helping teams build psychological safety, but remotely. Is that part of your work at the moment?
Yeah, it has been for the last, 18 months, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Thanks for asking that one, because most people innocently think that it's much more difficult doing it digitally. It's just a different flavor. I don't know if you thought about this, but we're just in the game of awareness and increasing human connection, whether it's through a digital pipe like this, the fact that we're having this wonderful conversation, or, the week before when we were sitting in a room with a team of wonderful recruiters. It's the same, but obviously if I had my way, I'd want to be with you in the room right now, Gary, but unfortunately I can't even fly back to the UK because of COVID and all of that. So what's the next best? It's doing this. And yes, if you're not used to it, it can seem very challenging, very daunting just to be on video, and it feels very cold and isolating and all of that. But it's just about checking in a bit more and getting more curious and getting a little bit more creative and asking more questions. So, for example, when I think back when I had my first remote team, which was even before Zoom, right? Back in 2009, I didn't have a clue what to do. And I was the same. I was like, how am I going to do this? All I could do is get them on a video conf. And that was when video conf stuff was really, it was quite expensive to do it. So you had to have a good reason and book it in and all of that. If I'm honest, most of the conversations took place over an analog telephone or, digital or whatever. But it was just a matter of, I just did what I could. And then the more I got curious about, okay, let's have more conversations. But again, I checked in with the team and said, what's meaningful for you? How is this going to work? How would you like to be served, if that makes sense? I might not have said it that direct, but I don't know about you. I see leadership as a very servant-based thing, right? So if you look at how can you be of service to your team rather than, oh shit, how am I going to do this remotely? It's a better question to ask, right? Because then you think, okay, then I know this person, maybe they would like more meetings or, they want to do it this way. But rather than make an assumption, let's just check in and ask the team. And they have all of the answers that you need. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. So quite often it's like, we need to do this. And these are the things that are not nice to have. We can't negotiate these. But all the negotiable stuff, let's sit down as a team. How would you like me to communicate to you? How often do you want me to check in? And obviously, when you do your individual one-to-ones, you get to know them on a more granular human level, right? And those are the kind of things that once you get to know those individuals, you just start to check in based on that personal preference. And it's amazing how companies get this wrong because they're like, no, we must put all these rules in place for remote working. I'm like, that's insane because all humans, let's be honest, they are diverse. They all learn different. They all like to be addressed differently. They like to, learn in a different way. Or, my version of safety, Gary, is probably different than yours. So if I just ask you, if you were on my team, Gary, how would you like me to, make you feel safe, included, listened to, and feel like you're adding value to the team? And then I just shut up. And I will shut up. I think like I've talked too much now.
Yes, you have. No, you haven't. Or maybe, I don't know. But it's interesting though. And I think one of the problems when it comes to leadership and management is that when this all happened, everybody got lost and everybody got a little bit insecure. I mean, being a leader also means that you're a human. And I think that people forgot that they don't have to have answers to everything, that they can ask questions. So there was lots of assuming, there was lots of sometimes what was maybe well-intentional checking in ended up being micromanagement. There was, I think, the trust needs to be developed, and trust is also developed by really appreciating other human beings and appreciating them as for who they are. I say a word now that might be, not really in line with corporate world, but it's love.
Yeah.
You really need to love people around you in order to gain their trust, and in order to, that kind of trust comes from that space.
This is such an important point. I just want to actually pop up. This is the thing about LinkedIn. Sometimes you don't get the user, unfortunately. So sorry for acknowledging you as a LinkedIn user. I know you're a human being behind the name. Being accountable for the output and flexible about the way to get work done is key in remote teams. Brilliant insight. And thank you for adding that. And I think it's a really brilliant segue to what you just described, Mira, for me, which is it's way more easy to be accountable when you feel seen. Like I want to own the hell out of my work. I want to own the hell out of the job I'm doing if I know that I'm seen as a human being and that what I'm doing matters. Like, I'm that simple. I might be a white guy, like based in the UK, but like I've got a heart and I've got a pulse. And I love you two as human beings in the way I know that you love me as a human being. And I think we need to, I'll have to ask you another question, Mira, around that word love, because I can imagine, I know in my workplace and in the industry I'm in, because it's pretty old school, like sort of chemical industry, heavy industry. Is there another way that you'd reframe love in a way that you might be able to meet a senior leader? Is there a different language, a different parlance that you might, even though you mean the same thing?
Yeah.
Is there a way to sort of reach someone that may just go, love, like that's really not my thing?
Could it be appreciation?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first one that comes to my mind, but
Okay.
it's also appreciating, I think it could be used in that way, is appreciating another human being for who they are and their presence over there, whatever the job they do. And also it means appreciating yourself, and being kind to yourself and others, even if they don't do that well, even if you don't do that well, even if you made a mistake. And I think that was my big learning in life, not just in leadership, but also in life. And it became so much easier to lead when I had compassion towards myself, if I make a mistake. It was much easier to make decisions.
My whole, like, I'm grinning like a Cheshire cat, right? I love you too anyway, but like the value you're bringing in 15 minutes is ridiculous. Now, where I want to hold space for, and what you just shared, Mira, which I think is gold dust. Now, I've been feeling, important emphasis here for you that's watching or watch this back, feeling what Mira said, not just thinking it. I know that if I care about my people, they'll perform better. No. When it comes from there, people feel it's from there. When you actually come from that place of like, I really genuinely care. So my equivalent in my workplace is to say, why don't we care about people more? In the same way for you, it could be appreciation. There's a lot of different words we can use that mean the same thing, which is basically that you matter as a human being. And I'm not going to use you just to get the job done. Like, if I was going to boil down our conversation so far, I go back to that. Like, what's the root cause? Is, do we truly look at one another and say, I believe you're equally human? Because if I don't, that's where we start to layer up all the other stuff that comes in. Am I oversimplifying it, Peter? Or
No, I totally resonate with that, because there is an innocence, but I would say more often now, if you look at what's happened over the last 18 months, it's going to be difficult for a CEO or leadership team to hide and say, oh yeah, we don't see the value in human-centric, regenerative leadership, right? Because everyone that's recruited from now on expects it. And I don't even think it's a generational thing, although the younger generations, they're clearer on what they want, and they don't seem to want to hide the fact that that's what's going to happen if they're recruited, which I would totally respect. And maybe the older generation sometimes a little bit sheepish around it, but let's be honest, everyone should be at a point where there's no selling about this. You don't need to convince people about DEI and human-centric leadership, although it still has to change. I mean, for us, we've never been busier, but there's a lot of work to do, right? Because there's still, I think, the innocence slips in where there's a lack of awareness, and it is an awareness piece where a leadership team knee-jerk reacts to what's happened during COVID. And I get that, when we're all fearful, me included, we react. We don't react from a place of wisdom, from something that's reflective. It's reactive on outside information. Oh, this is happening, so therefore we must do this as a company. And there is an innocence in that. But when you put the brakes on and reflect and you look back, you're like, actually, we didn't ask our employees. Okay, that's step one. We need to reverse back. So quite often what I see is that the employees that I'm really respect, the ones who are like, look, we got this wrong during COVID. We had a bit of a panic. We were in a mess just like yourselves, because, me too, just because we're your leaders, we're still human beings. That's human-centric leadership. So it's leaning into that vulnerability and then putting your hand up. It's the most impactful, powerful, loving thing you can do for your organization. And I see more people doing it. It's just that, we would love to see more people doing that, obviously.
It's brilliant, Peter. Thanks for sharing. I just want to share. Thank you very much, Rich. It's Rich Gasson who's confirmed that he's our anonymous LinkedIn user of the day. He's an amazing human being. He's actually part of the caring leadership community as well. So it's care and concern for the whole person, not just for their role in the organization. That's the love Mira is referring to, in my opinion. Lovely ad, Rich. Thanks so much for bringing that in. And again, do you know what I love about you, Mira and Peter, as well, is that you come from a place of love and care for everyone. Like, none of this is, I know I get energetic about this topic, but I hope I'm not come across as judgmental, because I'm not. I'm just so deeply believe that like we're misguided innocently, as you said that word. We've been so misguided along get the education, get the job, get the nice life, get the pension, then die. And we're just missing all of this amazing goodness of connection and openness and like diversity, because we've just been sold this track really innocently, maybe not so innocently, depending if you look at the power structures of 400 years. But as far as we're concerned as disciples of that system, you can see why we went the way that we did, the way I went that way. And it's taken, and I'm in that. I think what's exciting right now is, and I think it's what you're helping your clients with, the excitement in unlearning. I feel like a little kid again. So I'm like, oh my God, I don't need to believe that anymore. Woohoo! Oh my God, that is really ridiculous. Oh my God. And it's, so I think you two have taught me the play element of this as well. Yeah. Is that actually to make it a bit more fun and less serious, that whack myself over the head because I've realized I've been a bad person. It's like, no. You innocently believe something and that belief can go now. It's okay. Have a laugh with it. Yeah. And you two have really helped me with that. So thank you.
Thank you. No, I mean, we've learned off you as well, Gary. That's the thing in this wonderful community of people who are just trying to increase incremental, I wouldn't say levels, but just increasing awareness, right? Anyone that's looking to do that, I've got total respect for, because it's also, it's your own awareness that you increase. You know, for people listening, why do we love what we do with the mind takeaways? Because no surprise, whenever we work with an individual, a team, a company or whatever, we also get a download of fresh information and insights. And also sometimes we have a wobble and we're like, wow, I feel vulnerable. I didn't know that. Okay, that's useful for next time. So it's always a great reminder to lean into that ourselves, because how can you really practice what you preach if you're not willing to be a bit fearful and vulnerable? I mean, again, you can't fake it, right? It just shows up. So, you know, I hear a lot of innocence in the leadership realm saying, you know, strategizing fear and vulnerability. Not sure that's really true, because it shows up and like it or not, it happens and you feel really icky and uncomfortable. And then you either look outside or you get reflective and then you're like, okay, I don't feel that great, but you know what? I'm going to show up and I'm going to rely on my team. And I'm just going to share that I don't feel 100% today, but I've got you back. I'm still here. And I think the leaders that do that with their teams, they're special. They're the ones that, you know, leadership teams should keep, because more of that in your organization, that's organic. It will be regenerative. You know, you don't need to strategize that, although it can be systemic. And if you're really clever, you can build around it as well. Yeah.
I love those. Like, if it wasn't a live show, like there's a bit of me that's like going, I know we could do this for 3 minutes, and just that moment there, we were all in that, like. And this is something that for me, I should have been braver. I should have been braver and let us sit in that moment a bit longer. But
next time.
But isn't it funny that I was conscious of that? And I think this is the beauty, is you do practice more with this game of awareness that you refer to, Peter. Like, you start to recognize those signals a lot more. And this can start to sound a bit woo-woo, but what's woo-woo if it's not just like our human nature, which is like we're all masses of energy bouncing around the world that just happen to look like human beings, or a car or a dog or a building. And the thing that I've enjoyed most the last couple of years, that I say, is just the playfulness of it. Like, when I catch myself judging someone or being biased, I honestly, 5-6 years ago, I'd be literally hitting myself. Like, oh my God, I didn't realize you was that person, Gary. Oh my God, and I felt that way, if I'm honest, after George Floyd being tragically murdered. I was suddenly like, where have I been the last 43 years? Am I some sort of that, and I went into shame mode. And as Brene Brown says brilliantly, shame is an awful social justice tool.
Brilliant. Yeah.
No option there at all. Yeah.
Exactly. Where can you go if you feel shameful? Like, you just get locked up in your own emotion. What I found is the more that we play with our emotions, because I wonder what you think about this, actually. So I wrote a piece a long time ago called Emotions Are Just a Data Point on Where We Are in the Moment in Our Thinking. Like, it's not causal, it's not good or bad, it just is in that particular moment. And would you challenge or build on that, or what's your sort of feeling around emotions? And I just wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Well, it is, and emotions can, I mean, emotions can be triggered. Emotions can be, you smell something and there is emotion. You I actually accidentally touched his face. The other thing is like you can hear the piece of music, and then there is emotion that comes up, and then we can start thinking them, overthinking them, creating all sorts of stories, and get into a frenzy of building up to more, like, and if we can just see that this is what I'm feeling right now and it's okay, it doesn't mean anything, then it has a different meaning.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is just whatever you're thinking in that moment, it's got nothing, it's got no information about the past or the future. And that's quite useful, because quite often when I'm not in a great space and then suddenly I get this big jolt of emotion, I'm like, ooh, I'm no good. Why am I going to do this or whatever? It's like, it sounds to me in that moment when I'm not clear of mind. And this is a mind state. It's not a mindset thing. What I'm saying is, if I'm clear of mind, that means I've got clarity. But you only get that when you put the brakes on, when you reflect, right? So in the moment, if I see that jolt of, uncomfortable feelings as, oh, I'm about to go and do this public speaking gig, and I'm going to be rubbish, then I'm just going to torture myself. And, I'm still going to do it, to be fair, just for people watching and listening, right? But you have to get okay with that. And that's just showing up and being okay, being vulnerable. You can't fake it. You just have to lean into it. And I still get wobbly. And every time I do, whether it's a gig as a musician or go on a live, sometimes it's fine and I don't even second guess it. And other times I'm absolutely shitting myself and I'm like, oh, but I just don't see that. I'm always like, okay, is that really true? Maybe, maybe not. And actually, in most cases, it's not, right? And also, it's not really telling you anything about the past either, because whatever you've done in the past, that's not going to happen in the future. I mean, it can if you really want it to happen that way, but, you're not, right? So quite often, you're just feeling your thoughts in that moment. And if you just see it for that information, that's more useful to me, or at least, I don't know if that makes sense, but that helps me, because I'm just like, is that really true? No, it's not. Yet I feel really wobbly and I'm still really scared to step on that stage. But you know what? I'm going to do it. What's the worst that could happen, right? Even if you mess it up, so what?
We don't. I mean, what I've noticed is that understanding it in this way, Gary, as you said, it's reflection of where you are at that point, what's going on through your mind or whatever. It's nothing more than that. It gives us more freedom to do things and not stop ourselves. And also from the other side, it allows us to feel all those emotions even more.
That's so powerful, and I'm laughing like I'm just for anyone that's watching us now. Like we're talking about experiences here, not just theories. And I think this is what's really important. There's an embodiment around this. This is about feelings and thinking, and moving away from where we've been, which is it's all about thinking and suppression of feeling. That's certainly my journey of first 39 years. I was being bullied as a kid. I'll lock that away. I'll suppress it because I wasn't in an environment, or I wasn't taught that it's okay to feel. So like it was a game of headness instead of a game of awareness. My first 39 years. So look, this is what happens with like 29 minutes. That's what you call flow state. We're gonna look to wrap up. So I want to respect your time and those that are watching now or watch this back, Peter and Mira. I'd love us to leave one invitation for anyone that joins us. Like I say, either who has joined us or will come back to us. I'm going to start with one first. I don't normally do this, but it just came up so powerfully. And thank you both for this. When we talk about vulnerability, it can be quite a scary topic. People have got their own perception of what it means. What you shared today is a brilliant invitation, which is if you want to role model vulnerability, ask more questions. Nice and simple. I just think brilliant. What an absolutely brilliant invitation. Like, it doesn't mean you have to share all your dirty laundry. You don't have to tell everyone that your background. Just literally ask more questions. That's showing vulnerability. And I've never looked at it with that amount of piercing clarity. So thank you both for that. And I'd love to come to you, Mira. Do you have any sort of final reflections or invitations for anyone that might watch this back?
I don't know. I just again, like going back to the thinking, you don't have to believe everything that you think. That's something that I like. Even just during this conversation, at one point, I was like, "Oh, what did I just say? Like, does this even make any sense?" Like, and started overthinking, and I'm like, I really don't have to go there. I can just stay here right now where I am. And it just, that's it.
Beautiful example. Thank you. Thank you for like the live real life example. That's amazing. And to you, Peter.
I'm just thinking back about the remote teams again. You know what occurred to me? And again, it's quite often we remind people, but in a loving way, right? Especially with leaders, we're like, how do you feel? Are you feeling safe? And when people, you ask them, they're like, no one's ever asked me that before. And I'm like, well, you're feeling, thinking about your team and are they feeling safe? But what about yourself? And quite often, if you're being of service and remotely managing lots of moving parts, and it can be challenging, even if you do it in the best possible way. But what about this one? If you're not feeling safe first and foremost, how are you possibly going to lean into being of service for a team of 2, 3, 4, 15, 200, whatever it is? So the best thing you can give yourself as a leader is make yourself feel safe. Or not make yourself, but, what is it that's going to be good for you? What do you need to be able to relax into your role and show up and be the best version you can be? Because I'd hazard a guess, if you do that first, the rest of it won't seem that important, because it'll be much more natural to then look after your team and, create that high performance. But you need to start with you first.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What amazing, amazing wisdom. Mira, Peter, thank you both so much. Just like flow state, man. Love you too. You're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. The world needs it. And if you want to have a chat with me, you can find my Calendly link below there as well. And Peter, Mira, honestly, I so appreciate all the work you're doing. Have a great rest of your week. I'm now going to finish with a little video. Don't feel the need to have to stay on for 2 minutes, Peter and Mira, but if you really want to be curious, feel free. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Good afternoon.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone. This is where Gary seriously checks if this works or not. So, hey, working out live. Cheers, everyone. Are you someone that leads other human beings and knows in their body that there is a better, more healthy way to organize ourselves in the workplace, but we just don't find the time or just don't find the capacity to be able to reimagine what that could look and feel like? Or maybe you personally have suppressed feeling within the workplace. I did it for many, many years, where based on childhood trauma. We don't always realize the power of the stories that we tell ourselves in our mind. And sometimes having third-party support to allow ourselves to think for ourselves, as ourselves, without any interruption, can be the key to unlocking so much potential, both within ourselves, but also in how we lead others. So I'm here, Gary Turner, as someone to offer that space to you as a thinking partner, on demand or over a fixed number of sessions. And should that be of interest to you, please do check out my Calendly link, and I'd love to have an exploratory conversation with you to see if we're a good fit. Until then, I hope you enjoy these insights from my previous podcast engagements.